Well, there are now just 4 days until our midterms here in the United States, and the Democrats have literally rolled out their destroyer, and it has a bunch of Republicans literally freaking out about their safety, and they are literally running for cover. I've got tons of information to show you in today's broadcast you are not going to want to miss. But before I do, just a quick break. Well, silver demand will exceed supply again this year. 32,000 tons of silver will be produced against 34,000 tons of demand. Mining.com, an online-only news site that has been covering the global mining and metal industry, has sourced the data. This proves what Noble Gold Investments has long warned the market about. And that is that United States' transition to renewable energies will put pressure on silver production. Silver is used in solar cells, it's used in the automotive industry, and it's also used in industrial fabrication. There will be a future increase in the demand in the field of nanotechnology. And not just nanotechnology, also the food industry, as well as printed and flexible electronics. Demand will increase by 54% by 2030. That's why there's no better time to invest than right now with Noble Gold Investments at noblegoldinvestments.com. The people at Noble Gold are very friendly and they will walk you through the entire process. And it takes all of 5 minutes to open up a gold or silver IRA. As an added bonus, right now, Noble Gold is giving away this 3-ounce silver coin here. It's a silver American Virtue coin, and they're giving it away with any qualified IRA over $20,000. Get started with Noble Gold Investments today and take advantage of that special offer. But on top of it all, you can't go wrong. They also have a YouTube channel. I want to encourage you to subscribe to that. It's on Noble Gold Investments. I'll also have a link in the description box below. But they've got lots of great videos for you to look at how the industry is picking up regarding silver and things on recession as well. Bottom line, you cannot go wrong with Noble Gold Investments. So go to their website today at noblegoldinvestments.com or give them a call at 1-877-646-5347 and make sure you let them know Lisa Haven sent you. All right, back to the broadcast. So let's dive into what it is that has Republicans, quote unquote, running for cover or trembling in their boots a little bit. And that is the fact that the Democrats have rolled out a destroyer against the Republicans. And what I mean by that is the rhetoric that they are constantly spouting about conservatives and MAGA Republicans is so negative that it is leading to a lot of attacks on some of our congressional leaders. Right now, you've heard a lot, and it's a very sad situation about what happened to Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi. In fact, Justice Knight did an entire report on Restricted Republic on all of that. I hope you've seen it, and also here on my channel, I believe. But that is the only news coverage that they give. They are not telling you all the attacks that are now happening to many of our congressional leaders and candidates on the Republican side. They are constantly spouting the lie that somehow the guy involved with Paul Pelosi that attacked Paul Pelosi somehow is this right MAGA guy, when in reality he had a BLM, he was associated with a BLM flag, a pride flag, he's homeless, a part of or dealt with a nudist colony. And, these are not things of your average typical Trump supporter, right? These would be more in line with somebody on the far, far left. But either way, that's all you have heard about. And in the meantime, the Democrats are rolling out their destroyers over Republicans by using very negative, extreme, and even violent rhetoric in some cases, speaking out against us. And Biden kicked it all off last month when he came out on his red pulpit. It was either a month ago or a little over a month ago, where he came out on his red pulpit there and said that MAGA supporters, all of them, are a quote unquote extreme threat to democracy. Well, just the other day, he went again to warn Americans, and quite paradoxically, I will say, that American democracy can only survive if a nation functions under one-party rule. Now, he did not say that specifically, but basically that is the sum of his entire message, because he went on again yet to blast conservatives and MAGA Republicans as leading to a path of chaos and destroying democracy. Take a look at what I'm talking about here. And this is on MSN.com, LA Times specifically, excuse me. Biden warns that ultra MAGA Republicans will lead the U.S. down a path of chaos. President Biden issued a stark warning on Wednesday about threats to American democracy, using a primetime speech to urge voters to reject ultra MAGA Republicans who undermine faith in the voting process. The president, who has sought to paint Republicans as an extremist party loyal to former President Trump's Make America Great Again, or MAGA movement, blamed his predecessor for a continued assault on democracy that Biden said had given rise to political violence. Quote, American democracy is under attack because the defeated former president of the U.S. refuses to accept the results of the 2020 election, Biden said. Quote, make no mistake, democracy is on the ballot for all of us. Then he went on to talk about what happened with the violent recent attack on Paul Pelosi and of course, the assault on the Capitol, on J6, on the Capitol 6. So, in other words, he blames the attacks on more MAGA Republicans and conservatives and says these are the ones that are a threat to democracy. And if we don't go out and make changes at the ballot box, then our entire country is going to be usurped. So what he's really calling for is one-party rule by him. Rule by the Democrat Party. Because if you're not allowed to vote for those MAGA Republicans, or Republicans are a threat to democracy, then he's doing what communist-style people do, and he's calling for one-party rule. There really is no way to do that. In fact, the rhetoric is so bad that now we have a historian who went on MSNBC stating that in 6 days we could lose our rule of law. He stated that in the beginning, but here's what else he had to say regarding Biden's speech. Take a listen.
A historian will say what was at stake tonight and this week was the fact whether we will be a democracy in the future, whether our children will be arrested and conceivably killed. We're on the edge of a brutal authoritarian system, and it could be a week away.
Here we have a Democrat historian literally given a voice on MSNBC. No shocker there. But he literally states we're a week away, or now basically 4 days away from the election. And he's here saying that we are on the edge of a brutal, that's the word he used, brutal authoritarian system where children will be jailed and conceivably, he says, killed. What on earth is he talking about? He is saying that Republicans are violent people, and that if you vote in Republicans, this is the way I'm interpreting it, then that means you're voting for a brutal authoritarian system that is going to come out, arrest, and kill your kids, conceivably kill your kids. I mean, that's pretty violent rhetoric. Why wasn't that condemned on NBC is the question. This is the kind of stuff that they're accusing our side of doing, yet this is exactly, they always do whatever they say they're doing, that the other side is doing is literally what they are doing. But you know what? He's not the only one that came out after Biden's speech. Take a listen to what Ron Klain had to say.
Well, you know, the president's been talking about the threat to our democracy since he launched his campaign way back in 2019, and again on January 6th, and again in September in Philadelphia at Independence Hall. And I think the president decided a few days ago that it was important to issue one final warning on this issue, to make very clear, to leave no doubt, that we have people out there still peddling the big lie, people now raising the issue of election denial in this election. And of course, the horrible incident involving Speaker Pelosi and her family, showing the rising threat of political violence. And so I think all those things came together and led the president to make the strong remarks that he made last night.
So he wants you to know that Joe Biden issued one final warning. If you don't vote for them, the Democratic Party, then democracy is at stake. Oh, and by the way, this could lead to, political violence. On which side, Mr. Klein? Of course, they only hit at one side, but yet I fear with everything in me, we already know it's going to happen. If we do take the midterms, we're going to have BLM and Antifa back in our streets. But it's not the only rhetoric going on right now. This is just recently, after his latest, this is just in the past week, by the way. Take a listen to what ABC's Austin had to say about women who vote Republican.
I read a poll just yesterday that white Republican suburban women are now going to vote Republican.
Why?
It's almost like roaches voting for Raid, right? It's
I think
like
that's
they're voting.
No, it's insulting to the voter.
They're voting against their own self-interest. Do they want to live in Gilead?
So white Republican women are like little cockroaches running to Raid. That's very gruesome. That's very brutal. And those are very inappropriate comments and very racist. White suburban women running to vote for Republicans, cockroaches. Very racist, in my opinion. But that's not all who jumped on the bandwagon. Take a listen to what Bill Clinton said about Republicans.
The Republicans are pretty simple, actually. And pretty straightforward. They say, I want you to be very miserable. And I want you to be very angry. And I want you to vote for us, and we'll make it worse, but we'll blame them.
So Bill Clinton says that Republicans want people to be miserable and angry. I don't know about you, but like clockwork, pretty much anytime we've had a Republican, our lives have been better, economically speaking. Not in all cases, but a majority of them. Under Trump, we were living a lot better life. I don't ever recall being miserable and angry or wanting people to be miserable and angry, but I do recall the Liberal Democrat Party who constantly pressured the entire population and forced vaccine mandates on people who didn't want to get it, forced lockdowns on people who didn't want to do it. I think that's purposefully making people miserable and angry. The liberals were totally fine with all of that. Your party did that, not ours. And that's not all. Let me show you this clip on foxnews.com. House Majority Whip. The U.S. is on track to repeat Nazi Germany and downplays inflation ahead of the midterms. House Majority Whip James Clyburn claims that the U.S. will soon resemble Germany in the 1930s, pointing blame at you, far-right extremists, any single Republican. He goes on to state this: House Majority Whip James Clyburn, a Democrat, blamed the right's demonization of Nancy Pelosi for the attack on Paul Pelosi in their San Francisco home, saying that this is what happens in a country that follows Germany in the early 30s. Quote, this country is on track to repeat what happened in Germany when it was the greatest democracy going, when it elected a chancellor that then co-opted the media, Clyburn told Fox News Digital on Thursday. This past president called the press the enemy of the people. This is a bunch of crap, and that is what is going on in this country. Donald Trump, I agree, the press is full of crap. They are full of crap. Unfortunately, they are no longer the media that they once were, and they've co-opted and sold themselves out to big money, big lobbyists, and the United States government. But this is why we have alternative media on the rise, and which is why it's so important, by the way, to get to restricted republic. But here we have the House Majority Whip saying that we're on track to Nazi Germany because of Trump supporters. I mean, really? And then he goes on to reference Paul Pelosi. Again, Paul Pelosi's attacker is not a right-wing extremist. He looks more like a left-wing person than anything else. And hey, while we're on Paul Pelosi, which is very disturbing and sad what happened to the man, and I prayed for him, why aren't you bringing up any of the attacks on Republicans? Here's some of the recent attacks on Republicans that they're not telling you about. BlazeMedia.com. Man charged with allegedly issuing assassination threats to Illinois Republican gubernatorial candidate and his family. I'm going to skin Darren Bailey alive. This was published November 3rd. Here's another one here, and this is on Breitbart. Shot fired. an actual shot fired into the home of North Carolina GOP congressional candidate Pat Harrington's parents. It goes on to say that the Carolina Journal has learned that a shot was fired into the Hickory, North Carolina home of the parents of Republican congressional candidate Pat Harrington on October 18th, 2022, and the bullet entering the home only a few feet from where Harrington's children were sleeping. So, where his children were sleeping, that bullet was just a few feet away from those little babies. Nothing from the mainstream media, nothing from the mainstream media. Here's another one. GOP candidate for New York Governor Lee Zeldin attacked by assailant during speech. Now, this one happened in July, but here's what else happened, right? To that same GOP candidate, 2 people shot outside GOP gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin's New York home. This is on Red State. So first we have his attack, and then we have a shooting outside of his home. People shot outside of his home, right? And that's not all. There's been violence against a lot of conservatives, and I found a list of it in this article on Breitbart News, so I'm going to kind of scroll down to it. But here is a list of, ignored political violence that was used by the left, right? They went after Trump supporters, and these are all the attacks. I'm not going to list all of them, but here's violent attacks by left-wing activists on Trump supporters leaving a rally in California, riots in November by several Democrat-run cities after Trump announced he was the winner. Remember all that, November 2016? I unfortunately fear that something like that could happen again if we take Congress, at the midterms. Riots in Washington. We have violent rhetoric at the Women's March against Trump supporters. The shooting and wounding in 2017 of Republican members of Congress in the baseball field by a left-wing gunman. That was a political event. The summer of rioting of Black Lives Matter. We have threats of rioting prior to the 2020 election, the stabbing of New York Republican gubernatorial nominee, Republican Lee Zeldin, the alleged murder, and that's the one that I told you about in here, that he was attacked, right? And we have the attempted stabbing of him, the alleged murder of teenager in September after a North Dakota man said he suspected the boy was Republican, again, politically motivated. So far, I've not seen anything politically motivated with Paul Pelosi's attacker. They're really being quiet about it. The vicious beating of a volunteer for Marco Rubio, the biting of a supporter of a Republican candidate, Tudor Dixon by a fan of Gretchen Whitmer, that's probably a better word. Whitmer. Death threats last week, and some of these I've given you as well. But there you have it. We have all the firebombings and targeting of the pregnancy centers as well, and 0 arrests having been done. But yet, despite all of that, not one word from the mainstream media. All these attacks on a lot of our congressional leaders and by the left, it's sick on both sides. I don't want anybody getting hurt on the left or the right. Violence is never the answer. But here we have massive rhetoric coming out by Biden, his administration, and then we have these brutal attacks that they just ignore while only bringing attention to their side attacks. It's not just hypocrisy, it's hierarchy. The Democrats, the liberals want you to know that they have a higher place than you do. I hope you vote in these next coming days. And let's make that red wave happen. Anyhow, I love all of you. I'm Lisa Haven signing out.